Welcome to the Wildlife Ridge Outdoors Podcast, brought to you by Mossy Oak Properties Heart Realty, the leader in real estate sales in the state of Kentucky. If you're in the market to buy farms, land, recreational or hunting, or residential properties in the state of Kentucky, give us a call at 270-524-1980. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Hey everybody, welcome to today's podcast. Today we got a great show lined up for you. I'm your host, Paul Thomas. My co-host, Cameren Claunch, is here with us tonight. And I think we got a great show. We got somebody here that I think will be able to educate you, teach you, and give you a lot of tips on the turkey hunting woods out there. And it's right around the corner. I can't speak for everybody else, but I'm excited for turkey season. Hey, Cameron, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know what you got going on lately and what's new out there in the market?
Yeah, so got a lot of things going. Got a few properties gonna be hitting the market here soon. Just been, slam packed, busy. So busy I can't even think straight most days. But it makes it a little bit better whenever I know we're each day closer to turkey season. So I'm super, super excited, and I cannot wait.
All righty. Well, why don't you introduce our guests here tonight?
So tonight I thought it'd be awesome to bring Billy Barnett with Turkey Hunting USA. He's an awesome guy. I've known him for quite some time now. He's from Somerset, Kentucky, which is where I was born and raised, and he's just an absolute killer when it comes to turkey woods. And I thought, man, there'd be no better person than to bring him on and kind of pick his brain and ask him some questions and just talk turkey. We're right here close. We can see the light at the end of the tunnel, so I'm super excited. And like I said, I couldn't think of a better person. Somebody local and super knowledgeable and an awesome guy at that.
All right. Hey, Billy, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hey, guys, I'm doing good. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about your background on what you do daily, and then kind of tell us about your passion for turkey hunting.
Okay. You guys built me up pretty good with that introduction. I don't know if I can hold up to all of that, but I do love to turkey hunt, though. That's kind of what I live for. Like Cameron said, I'm here from Kentucky, and turkey hunted since, I was probably 15 when I started, 14, somewhere around in there. Killed my first bird in 97. And from that day on, it was just lit a fire under me. I knew I wanted to turkey hunt the rest of my life. So, I deer hunted, did all the other stuff too when I was younger, but turkey hunting's kind of took hold of me, and that's been my main passion. Every year, that's what I get more excited about than anything. And I still live here. I live in a town just north of Somerset. It's called Science Hill, and been here for about 20 years now. And I work at the local power company. I'm a lineman for them, and been with them for about 18 years now, and enjoy that. But when turkey season rolls around, those guys know my vacation times. I've got it on the calendar, so got some good guys I work with. They all help me out during turkey season, and appreciate all them helping me to do what I want to do in the springtime. So,
no, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We've actually.
You said you killed your first bird in 97?
Yep. Yeah, I was 17 years old. Killed my first bird in 97. Sure did.
That was the year I was born, so that's crazy.
I wish I was born then.
I hear you there.
Oh,
I'm
man.
getting ready to turn 52, and I'm still 21 in my mind and in my soul, but feel like I'm 152 in my body sometimes. So,
Yep. I'm getting that way too. It's my back. It's actually been hurting me this week, so I'm trying to get healed up and get feeling better. We're going to take off and start our season here next week. Actually, going to go to Florida and hunt when the North season opens. So, trying to get everything prepared and get ready for that.
that's
That's
great.
awesome.
So,
Yeah, so you mentioned, go ahead, Paul, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say one of the things that I'm getting ready to do, that this is going to be really my third time, but I couldn't hunt my second year, mainly just hung out around camp. So I definitely want to pick your brain about hunting public land, maybe get some suggestions from you, and kind of see where I can learn with that. I'm going to go to Hoosier National Forest up in Indiana for the opening week of turkey season up there. And if I was to ask for a piece of advice from you, say, tell me how to get started. What would be your pointers on somebody that's never done that before, learning how to hunt public ground or finding the best locations on hunting ground?
Okay. Hoosier National Forest, that's actually where I went and was able to harvest my Indiana bird. I just, everybody that goes to Indiana or looked at Indiana to hunt, that's one of the biggest pieces of property there is there, public land. And so that's where I started at. Um, when I'm looking, of course, everybody has Onyx and all the mapping and stuff. So that's the first place I start. I look on a map and just start looking for big chunks of public land. Um, you can look, most states, they'll have um, harvest records from, some of them do a good job, and have records, back for many years, but you can go to that and kind of see where the highest concentration of birds are in the state. And after that, it's pretty much if I'm going to look on a map, I really look for woods and I look for water. And if you've got those two elements, you're going to find turkeys. I mean, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, you're going to find them there. Um, that's kind of where I start. I usually try to find, with Onyx, you can drop pins all over. And usually what I'll do is I'll find these high points, these high ridges, if I'm in that type of country, that I think, all right, I might want to start here where I can hear for as far as I can hear. And I'll get up there, I'll have plan A, plan B, plan C, however many plans I can come up with. And pretty much after that, you just have to get out there and go try it and see what happens. Sometimes you can walk in and you'll hear birds, and other times you might be on plan B or C before you hear one. So um, that's kind of the way I do it. So I'll tell you another thing I've also done. Once I find a place on Onyx, I have pulled up Google Maps and go to Street View, and a lot of times you can kind of get a better idea of what this land looks like just by the Street View. You can spin around, look at it, drive down the road a mile or two. Maybe see a road that you wonder if there's a gate right there or not. Sometimes you can look from the highway and see if there's a gate, if that gate's open or closed. I like closed gates. I like to be able to, I'm not afraid to walk back, and I think that's where you kind of weed out a lot of people. Public land, number one enemy on there. Not enemy, I shouldn't say that, I guess, but the biggest thing you're going to have to combat is other hunters. And there's several ways you can get away from that. Either you walk a long ways or you go through the week. Sometimes going through the week doesn't matter. Everybody's kind of getting in that mindset now where they, I think, heck, you might, Saturday morning might be the time to be there now. I don't know. Everybody's thinking the same thing, thinking to go on a Tuesday or Wednesday. So I do prefer, if I'm going to go somewhere, opening weekend, That's everybody's favorite. But after that, I don't care to wait 2 or 3 weeks to go back to the state. It kind of lets everything die off. The the pressure's off. There's been some birds killed, of course, but a lot of people are finished or they're going somewhere else. So going to a state a little bit later, sometimes that's a good thing. You don't necessarily have to be there on opening day to have good success. I found that with many southern states that I went to. Opening weekend, I mean, you can't find a place to park, and then you go back 2 or 3 weeks later, you got the whole place to yourself. So just kind of pick what you want to do with that, and sometimes you don't have a choice. Sometimes you just have to go when you can go, and so anytime you can get out there, it doesn't matter. Just go try it. It might be the best hunt you've ever had in your life, and maybe it's the worst. But at least you're going and you're trying, and as long as you keep going back time after time, you're going to be successful. Just time in the woods and just keep getting out there. That's what it takes.
Oh,
Billy, before we go down the road, I mean, you brought up some really good points already that I kind of want to hit on. But before we go down the road of tips that you feel comfortable giving, like I said before, before we started, I understand public land. I'm a public land hunter myself. There's certain tips that, people just don't want to give out, and I completely understand that. And, for most of our listeners that are already into hunting, they're going to understand that. But before we get on that road, people like to hear and tell stories. And I kind of got a couple questions I want to ask you, and I'll let that take off however it takes off. But my first question that I want to ask you is I know you said you killed your first bird in 1997, but what got you into turkey hunting?
Well, my dad started me out squirrel hunting when I wasn't even hardly old enough or big enough to carry a shotgun. And just, it was always just weekend hunts. We'd try to go on Saturday morning or something just to get out in the woods and walk around and carry a gun. I thought that was the best thing ever. The guns were in the gun cabinet, locked up all week. And, we got to get them out and go, we just enjoyed the woods. My dad, he kind of raised us in the woods fishing and stuff. So that was exciting. I guess that's where I got my hunting background from. And then I just wanted to hunt whatever was in season or whatever I could go try, And my dad was a deer hunter and a squirrel hunter, small game hunter, but he never did turkey hunt. And really, nobody turkey hunted that. I mean, there was a handful of guys that I knew that actually hunted turkeys, and it just wasn't a big, it wasn't that popular then. Everybody deer hunted, but only a handful of guys turkey hunted, and it kind of took I guess it was something different, and it was something that I could go out and learn on my own, I guess. So it's kind of like I was exploring something new. My dad didn't know anything about it. So it was kind of a fun experience to go out and, he was excited. We'd never even seen turkeys. I remember when we were kids, people talked about turkeys being around and stalking them and putting them, in these wildlife management areas around here. And we would go out on Sunday afternoon drives with my dad and my mom and my brothers. We just drive around looking for turkeys just to try to even see one. And to the best of my knowledge, I don't remember ever seeing one while we were out on our drives. But it was always just the kind of the ghost in the woods that we were trying to, catch. So I guess maybe that intrigued me about it too. And then I guess so from there, I started learning more about turkey hunting from VHS tapes. I've still got some of my original tapes that I bought, when I was a kid, trying to learn all I could about turkey hunting. There wasn't YouTube or social media or anything then. And once I started watching those videos, I was like, I want to do this. I want to see a turkey. I want to kill a turkey. I want everything about it. I want to go do that. So I just started going. The first hunt I went on was actually at my uncle's farm, and we didn't know what we were doing. I had a shotgun and turkey loads, and I'd shot my gun, but we didn't really know what we were doing. Bought a box call, a Lynch box call. That was my turkey call. Bought a vest. You had to have a turkey vest, or I thought you did, and the camo had all that stuff. And went out to his farm, and I didn't know you roost birds. I just thought, well, we'll just get up and go try it in the morning. And I'll never forget being there at daylight, and it started breaking daylight. And this was actually his farm. The year that we hunted there, that was the first year that it had opened on that particular part of the county. It was closed up until that year, and there's turkeys everywhere. I mean, you could literally hear a turkey in every direction. It was the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life. And at that time, I didn't know what was going on. I thought, well, turkeys, we're turkey hunting. And I thought it was always, I thought, well, this is the way it's supposed to be, I guess. But I mean, to this day, I've never heard anything like that opening day. And back then you could only hunt till 1:00, and because me and my cousins, we were three of us together, just walking around the woods trying to go after these turkeys. Didn't really know what we were doing. Never had any luck, and if they stopped gobbling, I remember my cousins, they were like, I think we're going to go back and get something to eat. And I wanted to stay out there because I don't know, I just wanted to keep trying. I knew you could hunt till 1:00. And I think it was the second year, I believe, I was out there hunting just by myself and had a turkey come in, called him in on a ridge top. And this thing, I mean, I could have been aiming straight up. I don't know. I mean, I was just so shocked to see this turkey coming in strutting, and I mean, hammering down. Them Easterns are just in the woods, just the gobble makes the ground rumble. I mean, it's just so loud. And I shot, man, I could care less if I killed him or not. I was so happy I just wanted to go back and say, hey, I got to shoot a wild turkey. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. Well, that didn't set too well with me after a while, and I wanted to get one. And so I just stayed after it, and eventually I went back. I killed my first one on Daniel Boone, in the Daniel Boone National Forest. And
You killed your first bird on public land.
I did, yep.
That's not a lot of people can say that. That's awesome.
I was down in a big creek bottom, and man, when I shot that bird, I mean, I picked that thing up, and I mean, I was just so excited to run out there. I wanted to go back and show my dad. That was the first thing I wanted to do, and I just grabbed him up and ran all the way back up to the truck. And I mean, you talk about cloud nine. That was probably one of the happiest days of my entire life. And showed it off. I mean, it drove it to my uncle's and showed him, and I mean, everybody was excited and taking pictures, and that's probably the highlight of my whole turkey hunting career is the way I felt that day. And it was, I believe it was the very next year, or maybe 2 years later. I'm not 100% sure, but I told my dad, I said, you got to go with me. I said, I want you to go get a turkey and try this. I felt like I was a pro now. I got mine. So I'm ready to take him and help him, So I'm thinking it was the very next year. And I took him back to the day that I killed my turkey was the last day of the season for 97. So that was it. So next year I wanted to take him. So of course, we went right. I was like, well, we got one at this spot before. I'm going to take him back to the same spot I killed mine. So we went out there, heard one gobbling. We got down there too, and it's pretty close to where I killed mine. We walked down in the woods, and we got, I don't know, probably within 200 or 300 yards of it, and it sounded like somebody else was calling to it. And I told my dad, I said, let's just make sure there's nobody else here, because that sounds like somebody calling. And I said, well, let's go over here. I said, we weren't 100 yards from where I killed my bird, the tree that I was sitting up on. I said, let's go over here and I'll show you where I killed my bird at. And we'll just sit here and listen. We got over there to the tree. We were sitting there, and I never heard any more calling or yelping or anything like that. I said, let's call to him and see what he does. And I hit my call and that thing gobbled. And next thing I know, here he came. My dad was sitting at the same tree I killed my first turkey, and he pulled the trigger on his first turkey right there on the same tree. And that really was something to me. So
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, I think it was just meant to be. I mean, you can't put that any other way, I don't think. So
No, that's awesome. And you mentioned you were talking about how an Eastern tom, when it gobbles, is just, it makes it's like the ground rumbles. Like there's not really any other sound. Like you can't really compare it to anything else. Like once you experience it for the first time, it's like it makes the hair, on the back of your neck stand up every time. I mean, at least it does for me. And I mean, I've not been hunting, near as long as you have, but I do know that like every single time that I hear, a bird gobble, and it's just a big old tom coming through the woods or through the field or whatever, just every single time it makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. But you were talking about that, and like one of my questions, pertaining to that is, what is there a certain aspect of turkey hunting that is your favorite? Like you mentioned you grew up squirrel hunting, and your dad deer hunted. But is there a certain aspect when it comes to turkey hunting that really just drew you in from the start, and it's like, man, this is my favorite thing?
yeah, you just said it. The goblin, it hooked me. I mean, hook, line, and sinker. When I heard a wild turkey gobble, that was etched in my brain I'll never unhear a turkey gobbling. I mean, that's just, if they didn't gobble, I can say without a shadow of a doubt, I would not turkey hunt. I might still go, but I wouldn't be on fire like I am right now.
So is it like the calling aspect that kind of draws you to it, or is like, see, for me, like, I'm, a little bit about me. So, I mean, I'm, duck hunter first, turkey hunting second. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love springtime, spring turkey, being in the woods, hearing them gobble. But like, what draws me, I think, to both turkey and duck is just the aspect of calling, like being able to almost be on their same level,
Oh, yeah.
and speaking their language, so to say. So, I mean, I didn't know if that's kind of like what drew you to turkey hunting, and hearing them talk back and all that.
There's not one certain aspect of turkey hunting that like keeps me hooked. It's everything in it. The gobble is the main driver for me to get out there and just. I love that you can just pull up. You can go to a brand new state, pull up just like Paul was talking about. Pull up on some public land, and you don't have to. I mean, of course, doing your homework and trying to do all the research you can before you get somewhere is great. But there's been times I've just pulled up on a random place and just pull over on the side of the road and get out and just wait on daylight and listen. And you hear those birds start hammering down. I mean, you can't do that with anything else. I mean, they're there, and I don't know. I think that's probably one of the greatest things about turkey hunting. You kind of, you already know you're in the game from the get go. You know you've got a chance. You know there's a bird out there. If you go deer hunting, you don't know if there's you can go sit there all day and wonder, well, I wonder if there's anything here. Turkey hunting,
Absolutely.
so uh, I feel like that kind of it's kind of a carrot dangling there, I guess maybe that you're like, all right, this gets you going, and then from there on, whatever happens, happens. But yeah, the gobbling is my number one favorite thing of turkey hunting. As far as the hunting aspect of it, I've hunted them in fields, I've hunted them in woods, I've hunted them in creek bottoms. I've called them in. I've snuck in on them, and I like every single part of it. I mean, it's not, my heart gets just pounding just as hard when I'm crawling up a ridge and he's right there gobbling, and I know all I got to do is raise up, and he's 20 yards away, sitting there. And I've done that before when they wouldn't come to me, and man, I think my heart really pounds more then than actually calling one in. But
So I think the thing with turkey hunting, and I think you would agree, is that no 2 days are exactly the same. I mean, the weather could be close to the same. It may not be as windy one day as it is the other. I mean, whatever. But if you turkey hunt long enough, no 2 days are ever going to be the same. And I think you'd agree with that one. And I think too, I think that's like, why turkey hunting is so special and means so much and is so fun to so many people.
yeah, and no two birds are the same either.
Exactly.
And it also it doesn't have to be. You don't have to kill one to have a great hunt. Some of my best hunts that I can remember, I was thinking of one in Wyoming today while I was at work, of course, driving around. I had a turkey come in on me. I mean, really close. I was trying to get one in Wyoming with my pistol, and he got away. I mean, he came in 15 yards. I just couldn't move. But man, that thing is. I'll never forget that hunt because I mean he was right there, and I never did get him. But that was chalked up as a successful turkey hunt. And like I said, you just don't have to kill one every time to have fun. So
I'm the exact same way. And before we kind of go on to the next topic, I want to hit on that because I mean, some people just aren't like that. I mean, you grew up. You didn't have a whole lot of information out there to learn. You said it yourself, you didn't have YouTube where you could just have a plethora of videos to watch how other people are doing it or whatever. I mean, you had your VHS tapes and, got to learn that way, but a lot of your learning was actually, doing it yourself. And I feel like this new era of hunters, and I've noticed it a lot with duck hunting, and we could talk for hours on it about this with duck hunting. But you said something that really struck a chord with me, and I really respect the fact that you said you don't have to kill a bird to feel like you've had a successful hunt and that you've had fun. Because I feel like this new, like I said, the new era of hunting and seeing all these YouTube videos and Instagram posts and all that, it's almost like it's more about, who's killed what, who's killed the biggest bird. And it's not about that. Like at the end of the day, it's like getting out, being in God's country, exploring the area and get to experience some of the things that you do with hunting, whether that be deer, turkey, duck, whatever. But it's not about the kill, and I admire that and respect that because I'm the same way. I mean, I heard this on another podcast. I think Cuz Strickland even mentioned that there's three different stages to hunting. And I think I'm in the stage now where it's more about, how the hunt went, where I was, the people that I was with, or heck, I could be with myself, but just how the hunt went more than it is just about, whether or not I killed a bird.
Yeah. And another thing about turkey hunting, I'm sure it's the same with you guys. And, I'm always thinking about turkey hunting and where I'm going to go next year and what, trips. But like right after Christmas, it's probably about when I really start thinking, all right, it's coming up. And I'm already searching for new gear, getting my stuff out, just playing with calls, um, trying to make my turkey vest better, spending way too much money. Just, buying new boots and calling my buddies. They're sending me, hey, have you seen this? Check this out. We're buying anything from socks to hunt turkey vest. And everything in between. And I think that's honestly, I have a lot of fun just getting prepared for turkey season, and it lasts longer too. Right now, me and my buddies, we're just texting it. I've got 2 or 3 text threads that are just going wide open. And they have been for months now. My phone I guarantee if you look at my cell phone bill for the whole year, everything's kind of calm, June, July, August, September. At the end of December, the phone calls and texts start going up. And it's straight up from there all the way through June to the end of May, I guess. So I enjoy that part of it. Just getting ready, getting excited, talking about where you're going to go. Even putting in for these draw hunts. A lot of these states are going to a application now, which I'm a big fan of. I really like that. Um, but it's kind of exciting just to put in for those. I know it sucks when you don't get picked, but it's kind of exciting to put in and see if you get drawn and, get your buddies to put in with you. So I enjoy every bit of it. There's not any part of turkey hunting or getting ready for it that I don't.
So Cameron's told me that you've been fortunate enough to harvest a bird in all the states that you can legally hunt turkey in. So tell me about that experience.
Yeah, yeah. I never intended to do something like that when I started out. Actually, I usually always just hunted around Kentucky. I'm not far from the Tennessee line, so me and a group of my buddies would go down there and hunt every year, and that's about the extent of our traveling. We did go to Alabama. I believe it was 1998. I believe we went down Talladega National Forest. That was really my first out of state hunt ever, and never heard a bird. Didn't see a bird. I think we saw 1 or 2 hens, and that was it. It snowed on us. It was a terrible year, and believe it or not, it snowed in northern Alabama during turkey season. So, um, but I guess it all started from wanting to do a grand slam. Me and my buddies had always talked about it, but never. We all couldn't get on the same page to actually go after it. So I just kind of told everybody, I was like, guys, I'm going this year. If y'all want to go, come with me. If you can't or won't, I'm going by myself. So I just planned a trip and went down to Florida. I actually found another friend of mine. He went with me, just a guy I met on a hunting forum, and he needed an Osceola Grand Slam. He'd already got the other 3 subspecies. So me and him just loaded up and went to Florida. This was in 2016, and we both got our Osceolas, and so I was pretty fired up about that. Getting to start turkey season quite a bit earlier than I was used to, and the very next weekend, I was like, man, I got to find somewhere to go. I can't wait till our season gets back in. So I loaded up and went back to Alabama, and I went back down there by myself and was able to kill one in the Talladega National Forest, same place I went to, in back in the late 90s. And so I was really on fire. I really excited. had Tennessee coming up. We hunted it, and I wanted to go after and I wanted to try to finish my Grand Slam that year. So I planned a trip to go to Kansas to hunt my Rio, and then um I wanted to go to Nebraska, and also, of course, the South Dakota, the Black Hills. I mean, that was like the ultimate place that we always wanted to go to. That's where everybody on the videos we watched, the Black Hills of South Dakota. That was I mean, that was on the bucket list for every one of us. So I was going to go by myself, and my dad actually he offered to go ride out with me. He said, "I don't want to hunt," but he said, "I'll go out there with you and help drive." And because I'd never been that far west in my life, never been that far away from home in my life. So we loaded up and we took off and got to Kansas. And I was fortunate enough to actually get two birds the first day we were there. Got one that morning and one that afternoon. We took off from there and went on out and went. The next state was Nebraska. We got there, and everybody I talked to, "Oh, you won't have any trouble in Nebraska. There's birds everywhere." I'll tell you what, I struggled so bad there, and that was the only state that I didn't kill one that year. Uh, so we hunted Nebraska, or I hunted in Nebraska for a couple of days. Didn't have any luck. I was like, let's just go on down to South Dakota. I was excited to get there anyway. I mean, I couldn't wait to just go stand in the Black Hills, just take off after a turkey. And so we drove down there, and I think it was on the second day. First day, I know I didn't get anything. The second day, that second morning, I went back to a spot I found the first day and ended up killing my first Merriam's, and that completed my Grand Slam. So then we turned around, drove back home, and I'll tell you what, the turkey season was pretty much over. That was about the third or fourth week of May when we were out there. It was as late as you could go. And I'll tell you what, I wasn't ready to quit. I mean, I was just like, golly, I'd never seen the West. I'd never seen, we went through the Badlands and Mount Rushmore and seen all that pretty country out there. And I mean, I was sitting on the edge of my seat ready to go again. And I was playing, and I was like, all right, next year I want to go. They still didn't have intentions of doing a U.S. Super Slam. I just thought, well, I'm just going to pick some more places out to go hunting. And next thing I knew, well, let's see, let me back up. I came home and I thought, I think I'll register my turkeys through the NWTF. They send you a pin and a little certificate. And, and when you get all four of the subspecies, they send you a Grand Slam certificate. And I thought, well, that'd be a neat way to document, everything. And so I did that. And while I was on there, I'd heard about a U.S. Super Slam, but I thought that was for, the not people like me. I never dreamed of anything like that. I didn't even like to travel, much. I was kind of a homebody, I guess. I'm comfortable with my own state, and I thought, well, I'll get my two birds here and my birds in Tennessee, and I'm done for the year. But yeah, so I never dreamed of that, but I wanted to go turkey hunting in more states. So I guess that's where the kind of build up from there. And man, I'll tell you, then I started thinking, after I started accumulating states, I was like, maybe I could try for it, maybe in 30 or 40 years, maybe I'll get something like that done. And but the more states that I got, the more more fuel was thrown on my fire. And I mean, number one, it was something that, not many people have ever done the U.S. Super Slam, just a handful of people. Now, there's quite a few more, coming up in the last few years. I mean, it's really picking up. I mean, everybody you talk to is going after U.S. Super Slam, but it wasn't that popular. It wasn't like it is now when I started. So, I don't know. I've always picked out challenges or set goals in my life and try to go after them. So that was kind of a goal. I thought, I want to go for it, even if it takes me 30 years. And So that's kind of where I started with it. Next thing I knew, I was halfway through it, and man, I was my whole life was obsessed with, as soon as turkey season was over, I was already planning, if I wasn't planning before it was over, for the next year. And man, I just fell in love with driving all over the country, seeing new places, met some great people, had some unbelievable memories turkey hunting. Um, I don't know. It's one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. Um, so yeah, I finally, I say finally, I did finish that in 2022. I had Nevada left. That was my last. COVID kind of messed me up in 2020. I think I had about, let's see, maybe 8 or 9 states left in 2020, somewhere around in there. And I was going to try to finish it that year. We went to Hawaii in February, me and my wife, hunted there, came back home, and that's when pretty much everything went haywire. Uh, my job, they told me, hey, you can't travel out of the state. Everybody was being told this stuff. And so I pretty much threw in the towel that year. And um, then I just kind of, it did relax a little bit. And I got a few more states in 2020. And then, but anyway, I kind of coasted in on the end. But yep, finally finished it. And uh, I guess you could say I'm headed back on round number 2. I think I'm about 25, 26 states into round number 2. So I'm not like actively seeking them right now. I'm kind of hunting the places I enjoyed the most, but eventually I would like to go back to every state that I hunted and try to get another one.
So you talked about, all the states basically that you've been to, and I mean, obviously you've had success in every single one of them that you could possibly hunt turkeys in, and I mean that's mind blowing to me. Especially whenever you said that you're like halfway through round 2. Like I can't even wrap my head around that. But sitting there listening to some of the things that you were saying, and you kind of hit on it, but I kind of want to see what your thoughts are on this. But what made you want to do it? Because I mean I travel during duck season, and I do travel some during turkey season. I'm gonna travel a whole lot more, or more than I'm used to this year. But I can kind of relate when it comes to duck season. But I mean, man, that's a lot of. I mean, for people that's never done it, I mean, they don't really know what to expect. I mean, that's a lot of time, scouting, whether that be actual boots on the ground or sitting there while you got downtime at work, or in bed when you can't sleep, sitting there looking on the Onyx. But I mean, there's a lot of scouting involved, and I mean, there's definitely more to it than just, hey, I want to go to Tennessee tomorrow and go kill a turkey. I mean, gas, tags, I mean, you name it. I mean, there's just so much involved. So I guess my question is what made you want to do it?
Just a turkey hunt more. Pretty plain and simple. I mean, it's as well as anybody, here in Kentucky, you can get 2 birds, and
Right.
man, I couldn't live with myself if that's all I could hunt a year. I mean, and once you start traveling to these other states, I never dreamed that I would want to do that, but once I started, man, and I've got a buddy of mine now. He's I've talked him into traveling, and man, he sounds just like me when I was starting out. I mean, he's calling me, what about over here? Or, I'm going to try this one next year. And he's kind of turned into just a, crazed turkey hunter now, traveling turkey hunter. So it kind of gets in your blood, and I don't know. I think it's a challenge of it. I think if it was easy, it wouldn't be fun. So I think that's kind of makes it, so much better, because it is hard. I mean, it's not you're going to a brand new place you never set foot on, you don't know anything about, and you're going out there most of the time blind, and you're going to try to go find and harvest a turkey. And man, when you do it, I mean, the reward of that, it means so much to you. I think that's why people enjoy it. I know it is for me. So
Right. Well, speaking of, you've got what, 49 different states that you can legally hunt turkeys in.
yep, that's right.
What's the hardest state that you think I mean, obviously this is you speaking and your opinion, but what was the hardest state that you think was hardest to hunt and hardest to kill turkey?
Okay. You could ask 100 people that same question, and you're
Right.
probably going, you could get a whole lot of different answers.
Right.
For instance, when I was going through my first round, Mississippi absolutely kicked my butt. Up until last year, I had never even heard a turkey gobble in Mississippi. Made
Wow.
multiple trips back. The bird that I killed, I mean, I just seen him, spotted him, and pretty much I was afraid to call to him. I mean, I felt like that I was going to run him off if I even opened my mouth with a turkey call, and pretty much just had to ambush him. Just woods, just get in the woods, watched him, and kind of got in front of him, and uh, I was tickled to death. I mean, I'm telling you, I was really, really happy because I'd spent several uh, hard days of hunting in Mississippi, and I mean, I had some really pretty mornings. I was there on opening weekend. That's kind of goes back to what I was talking about before. You don't have to be there on opening weekend to have a good, that doesn't necessarily mean that's going to be the best time to be there because it was pretty weather. I thought, oh, there'd be turkeys gobbling everywhere. I was in a good area. I felt like I could cover a lot of ground and never heard a peep. I mean, I felt like I was like, is it even turkey season? It didn't go right. So that Mississippi was my hardest. I wanted to go back, and a friend of mine, the one I was telling you about, he's wanting to go after his U.S. Slam now. So we decided to try Mississippi again last year, and we put in for the public land draw, and we got picked. And we went down there, and I mean, I was telling him, I was like, man, I'm telling you, don't get discouraged. It's going to be a tough one. Just if you don't get one, you can always come back. Telling him all the stuff, getting him prepared. Well, me and him get there, and we found two different areas that we wanted to hunt. So he went to one, and I went to the other. And we were this was a new piece of ground, and we were kind of going to try to learn it. Say, all right, if you hear some down here, let me know, or if I hear some, you come up here. So we separated. That dude, he went out and killed one the first morning. I mean, like it wasn't anything. So they were hammering down. I mean, and actually, I got to hear my first turkey in Mississippi last year too on that first morning that we hunted. So that was a win for me. I could take that and be content. That's all I wanted to check off my list. But so we went back the second day, and I had a bird that morning I wanted to go after, and he said he heard another one. Well, he went in there and killed his second bird the next day. I'm like, and I was telling him how hard it's going to be and all that. So, and then he left. He killed his two birds, and he went home. We drove separate and just met up down there. And then I stayed, and I got my bird on the third day. So, so I guess you could, it all depends on who you ask and what kind of experience they had. So
Mississippi, though, Mississippi is the hardest state that you basically that's the state you struggle with the most.
From what I found, the southern states, I guess it's pressure more than anything. I've seen more hunters, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, all of those places that I hunted in those states. I had people around me pretty much the whole time. I mean, so that's probably the biggest. That's probably what makes it the toughest, I guess.
So that's funny because whenever you say Mississippi, that's where, Mossy Oak originated from, and I can't wait to. I'm hoping whenever Cuz or Mr. Toxie or some of the Mossy Oak boys, listen to this podcast. I can't wait for all the crap talk that's going to be said.
Yeah.
But hey,
Well,
so with the hardest state being Mississippi, what would you think the easiest state was?
it's part of the same answer. It depends on the person. I would say other than Kentucky, because I've hunted here, you know, all my life. Kind of have some hot spots I always go to. And honey holes, I guess. And
Right.
I guess I don't know. I can't really pick just one. I mean,
I know that's a hard question. I just
it is.
curious.
Yeah.
If you don't know, you don't know. But.
I don't know. I guess it depends on what you call easy. I mean, like New Jersey, when I hunted there, I remember that bird. He flew down right off the limb and walked right to my gun barrel. I mean, I was sitting there for 5 minutes after fly down and had that bird. Louisiana, that was a pretty. That one was one that kind of shocked me to be easier than what I was expecting because kind of like I told my buddy, everybody I talked to about Louisiana said, "Oh, it's tough, not many birds, pressure," and I was going into it like that because Louisiana, I hunted Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, all of those states, those southern states, before I went to Louisiana, and so I already kind of knew what to expect hunting another southern state like that. And then on top of it, everybody's telling me how hard it's going to be, and I just did my scouting on maps and stuff, and I'm limited on vacation time, and I would rather it's always better to get there 2 or 3 days early and scout and listen. But if I'm going to go somewhere and I want to burn a day off work, I can scout while I hunt. So normally I would roll in. It would be midnight or after midnight before I'd roll into a state if I could drive to it, within one day. I'd leave right after work, just take off driving. And I rolled into Louisiana in the dark. I think I got there about midnight, if I remember right, and had a spot picked out, just on a map, and I was going to walk. It was kind of like what we were talking about earlier. It was you had to walk a pretty good ways, and to get back in there, there was no other roads around it. Once you walk back in there, I thought, this is as good as any. It started raining that night, and it was opening morning, and I couldn't sleep. I mean, I was only going to sleep for about 2 or 3 hours anyway. But it started raining, and I went ahead and got up and drove on out there to where I was going to go hunt it. And I was sitting in my truck as, kind of getting a feel of how many people were going to be around to kind of see the traffic on the road and everything. And I sat there until I thought I had enough time to walk back to the spot I wanted to start at. And, I didn't see that many vehicles. I don't know if it was because it was raining, overnight, but before it got daylight, man, it broke and everything was pretty. And I'm not kidding. It was like there was a bird planted there for me. And he was probably 200 yards from where I ended up in the dark, just off of a map and just a hunch. And next thing I knew, man, I was sitting there and called to him, and here he came. And within 15 to 20 minutes, I had my Louisiana bird. I mean, I was just in total shock. So that one was a really big. I don't know if you call it easy, but it was a really big surprise for me. I guess maybe because I went in ready for everything, prepared for the worst, and it worked out good. So,
Oh, that's awesome. It seems kind of like you're like me. Like, I do public land too, public land hunting too, and like to me, like it doesn't matter how crappy the the weather scenes or how crappy the season's been so far, it's like you have another chance to not only go enjoy doing, what you're passionate about, but you have it's just another day, another chance to go after them. And it kind of seems like you're like me, you roll in and you only got like 2-3 hours of sleep. I know exactly how that is. And it's like, dude, I can't, there's no way I can go to sleep. Like, I might as well just roll into where I'm going and, see what happens. So I understand that, but that's awesome to be able to experience that. And, talking about, different states you've been, obviously for our listeners that maybe just are getting into turkey hunting, they may not realize that there's different subspecies of turkey. You got your Eastern, you got your Rios. What different regions of the U.S. depends on what type of subspecies bird that's there. So, my question is what species do you think's most fun? I mean, is it your Eastern or going down to Florida and what's your favorite subspecies to hunt?
I don't really get too hung up over the subspecies. If it's a Merriam's, that's fine. If it's a Rio, that's fine. I just want to hunt turkeys. As far as the characteristics, though, I guess as far as I grew up here in Kentucky hunting Easterns, and that's just kind of my, that's what I was born on, and so I guess the Easterns are probably they got the most special place in my heart, chasing them through the big hardwood ridges, and so I love hunting the Rios and the Merriams and all that, but there's no place like home, I guess you'd say. So.
Huh. Well, that's awesome. Well, talking about, traveling and everything else, I know, I'm sure you have some trips planned out, and I know I've been talking to Paul some. I think he's going down to Indiana in a couple of weeks. Why don't we talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm planning on going to Hoosier National Forest myself. Hey, Billy, do you got any trips planned for the year so far?
Yeah, it's. I'm not sure when you're going to release this podcast here, but like I said earlier, I'm going to start it off in the when the north part of Florida opens. Me and a couple of buddies are going to meet down there and start there, and then it depends on the Mississippi hunt. Believe it or not, I'm going to try to go back there again. I think I mentioned earlier that most of these states are going to these draws now, and I really like that. The pressure's off these places. Yeah, you might not get picked every year, but I think you have a better hunt experience. You're not covered up with people. I enjoy that. So hopefully get picked for Mississippi again this year, and after that, gonna head out to Nevada and California. Gonna stay out there for several days and try to get a few birds and meet up with a couple buddies there. And I've got something planned about every weekend or week, all the way till the end of May.
Wow, what a lot of great information Billy gave us there. It was so good, as a matter of fact, that we want to bring you back for a part two. There's still a lot of great information that Billy discusses with us that I think that will help you in the turkey woods, help make you a better hunter, explain a little bit more about him. Definitely will be very educational. So stay tuned for part two coming soon.